Calibrating cybernetics.
Talk to him now.
AT Andre.
Come on, Dre.
Yep. Trippin with Let's Go. Woo! Trippin with Theobold.
What's your name?
Theo so bold.
Yeah.
Driggity. Let's go. Trippin with Theobold. Trippin.
What are we doing?
Trippin with Theobold.
Come on, Dre.
See, mic check 1 2 1 2. Hey, and welcome to another episode of Trippin with Theobold. I'm your host, Andre Theobold. Welcome to the show. Glad you could tune in. Welcome to Theobold Studios, where we do it ourselves, aka do it yourself productions. Before I go any further, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and tell a friend to tell a friend, and do all that fun internet stuff like the old people say. All right. So as you guys know how we do over here in Trippin with Theobold land, we gotta get started with the tongue twisties. All right, we gotta get the brain and the tongue coordinated so there'll be less trippage on the show. So today's tongue twisty is brought to you by the letter I, because we're gonna be talking about incompetent leads. Incompetent leads. I'll explain that when I get to it. But let's go ahead and start with the tongue twisty. So here we go. Number one. Or, I'm sorry, I forgot. You know, you guys can either read along with me or you can watch me struggle. The choice is yours. You always have a choice over here in Trippin with Theobold land. So here we go. Number one. Ivy Impala insisted on inserting ice cream into an ice box. Okay, she got frozen yogurt at best. I don't know. Ivy Impala insisted on inserting ice cream into an ice box. Ivy Impala insisted on inserting ice cream into an ice box. Tongue twisty number two. Oh, this is a tricky one. It's going to mess me up. Irish wristwatch, Swiss wristwatch. I say wish. This is getting wish-washy. This is wish-washish. Irish wristwatch, Swiss wristwatch. Man, this is hard. Last time. Irish wristwatch, Swiss wristwatch. I give myself an F on that. That's a hard one. That's probably gonna be my favorite one because I know I can mess it up. Here we go. Last tongue twisty. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. I think that should be and not and. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager. Come on, Dre. I said, my man. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imagining menagerie. There's a lot of menage a trois going on over here. Here we go. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. And yay, tongue twisters are done. Got those out the way. Now we can go ahead and get on the topic at hand. Right. So as you guys know, I started a segment called Engineering Tales or Lessons Learned. You know, this is a basically it's these are like short stories about my engineering experiences, if you want to call them that. And Engineering Tales, aka Lessons Learned. So in the engineering world, we have this process called Lessons Learned, or it's a document. And basically, after you struggle through a project, you have to write down all the lessons that you learned from the shit, so you can just do it all over again, right? Really, it's a warm, fuzzy, feel-good document that means nothing. There's lots of lessons learned documents that are shoved on hard drives that people wrote, and people don't read that shit, but I figure why not cross over and talk about it and have this kind of crossover into my pod. So here we are. So, man, my nose It keeps itching. No booger sugar from me. I'm booger sugar free. You know, my nose, I just got nose hairs that be heckling me during my podcast, you know. But not engineering tales, right? AKA or lessons learned. So today's tale is about an incompetent lead. I had lots of incompetent leads in my engineering experiences. Right. So what is a lead? A lead is someone who a lead on an engineering project is someone who takes lead of whatever they're working on. So basically they're in charge of a group of people, and they're different leadership styles, right? Like some leads like to just, you know, they like to delegate work, and then if the work doesn't get done, they point the finger at whoever they delegated it to. Or you have leads that take on most of the work, and then they'll ask for your contribution, and then they'll take whatever you contribute to them, and then they'll work it in, you know? So a lead basically is like the mule of the project, right? Or the mule of, yeah, they're basically like they're a mule of the project, right? Like they'll work long hours typically. And typically someone who is a lead is trying to either get a promotion or they are trying to become a manager. So I've had lots of leads throughout my career. And I never had interest in being a lead. I feel like if you want to be a leader or a lead, you will more than likely be a shitty lead, because real leaders or leads don't want to lead. They just want to do the work, you know? So anyways, I've had lots of incompetent leads or shitty leads. Today's lead is this is my first lead, right? So the first project, this is actually my first job, my first project. I got assigned to a shitty lead, and or an incompetent lead. I'm going to refer to her as CB, right? CB. That's how I'm going to refer to her. She was well out of her. She was basically way in over her heels. So I started on this project. I worked on this project called Synthetic Vision. Basically, long story short, Synthetic Vision is a how can I explain this so I don't lose y'all? It's basically a computer system on board an aircraft that takes in aircraft sensor data and database data of the terrain around. Let me go and back up. Synthetic vision. A synthetic vision system is basically a computer system that takes in aircraft sensor data and an onboard database data of the terrain that the plane is flying over, and it creates a computerized clear day vision of what the pilot should be seeing when they're flying through inclement weather, right? So for example, if a plane is flying through like thick clouds or inclement weather, or it's like super dark at night, they have, instead of just looking at the sky ground ball, you know, they'll have this computerized image of what they should be seeing as if they're flying in clear day. And the whole purpose of synthetic vision is to aid with preventing CFIT or commercial flight into terrain accidents. And a CFIT accident is an accident where any part of the plane touches terrain, causing it to crash. So while I was working on synthetic vision, or SVS, while I was working on it, basically it you can't use it to navigate, right? It's only for situational awareness, right? So now that I bored you with all the details of what I worked on, this was the first project I worked on. I got on this project because of my experience in grad school. You know, I had experience in grad school working on this research project with synthetic vision. So I was supposed to be a how do you put it? My expertise was needed. So, anyways, I get on this project, or first I get this job, right? And at the time that I get this job, I'm supposed to be under the tutelage of another lead, right? His name was Steve. And over the summer, right before I moved to go take this job, my manager and Steve, they were like, yo, get up on your C programming skills, get up on your C++, you know, because we want you, when we come here, when you start working here for us, we want you to hit the ground running. So I'm like, cool. So I'm looking at all my C programming experience, all my C++ experience. I'm looking at all that, making sure I'm ready to hit the ground running when I come to start working. And when I get to my job on day one, after I do my orientation and all my training and stuff, I'm like the first, and I'm the only person there. I'm the first person to report on this project. So I'm in my office, I got my computer, I'm by myself. So when I get there, I go to look for Steve to go and figure out what he wants me to start working on. But I find out that Steve got promoted to a manager, right? That happens a lot in engineering, right? Where, you know, you're a lead or whatever, then you get promoted, right? So he got promoted to be a manager for a whole nother project, like down a couple hallways or whatever. So I'm the only one on this project sitting there, right? So there's a whole new team coming in, a whole new regime coming in to take on this effort. So basically like on the beginning, I believe, of the second week, I'm at work and everyone starts to report in for this project. And as I walk into my office, there's a female that's like a few doors down, and we both kind of walk into our offices and we lock eyes, and her expression on her face was like, oh fuck. Like that's what her expression, when we locked eyes for the first time, her expression was, oh fuck. Like she didn't say oh fuck with her mouth, but she was just like, her eyes said, oh fuck. You know? And I knew at that moment that was my lead, because, you know, when I saw her go into the office, and I knew that my lead was one office down. But when we locked eyes, it was like shit. So after that, you know, she was very, like, she tried to clean it up a little bit afterwards, but the shit stunk, man. It was doomed from the start. So CB, as I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna call her CB. She would give me like the most mundane, stupid, remedial shit ever, man. Like I used to get she used to give me the most mundane task, man. It was, God, I hated that work, man. It was nothing technical. She would give me like her style was, she would give me like dumb shit to do, and then there would be no expectation, or the goals, or what she wanted was very muddy. She could make it up as she went along, right? So basically, she wanted me to format a spreadsheet for our interface control document, right? So in the engineering world, an interface control document, or an ICD, is a document that defines all the inputs and outputs to a system, right? It's basically a dictionary of all the inputs and outputs that go to the system. And or all the inputs and outputs of the system. And in this, it's just imagine like a spreadsheet or a table where you list all the inputs and outputs, or there's separate sections, like one half is input, the other half is outputs. And you basically define like the data type, you define like the rate at which the data is supposed to be transferred. So you'll have like a minimal rate, or like a minimum rate, a nominal rate, and a maximum rate. You'll have, like what type of data is it? Things like that, right? Just imagine this table, inputs, outputs, and everything's just defined, right? So my manager, or my boss, the guy who hired me, he told me from day one, he wanted me to go, and he wanted me to hit the ground running. He said, just go to all of the various subsystems of this aircraft, go to the POCs, he said, go to all the point of contacts, all the point of contacts, POCs, and just get the ball rolling. Just gather all the information you can for this ICD, right? So I'm going around all over campus, going to managers, looking for the POCs for different subsystems, and I'm capturing all this information. I'm just keeping track of all of it, But CB wants me to make the spreadsheet look pretty, So she has me, play around with the font and the format and just all the bullshit. I'm like, yo, I'm an engineer. I'm not getting paid for this shit. I don't get paid to make shit look pretty on paper. I get paid to have a flawless design. That's what I get paid for. So anyways, she was just real condescending. Like, she would tell me to do something half-assed and really wouldn't, it was like she didn't really want to spend time with me, man. She was a bitch, she was a bitch at work. Outside of work, she was actually kind of cool. But at work, man, she was a bitch. I did not like working for her, man, or working under her or with her. So anyways, she would always just like down talk me and just she would like pull me aside and just be like, hey, like, I expect this from you, and why am I not getting this from you? And and then in my office, like, I shared an office with two other people. It was Dan and Lou. And it was a pretty big office, but we shared the office, and she would always compare me to Dan and Lou. Hey, like, when Dan and Lou give back work, how come your work can't look like this? And just always just being a bitch, and then I remember we had two incidents, yo, and I was like, yo, like, I don't know how I'm gonna last at this company working with this bitch. Like, I do not know how this is gonna work, because I was biting my tongue for so long. I was being patient, but a miracle happened. But I'll get to the miracle later. Anyways, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, do all that fun internet stuff, like the old people say. Anyway, so so what happened? So yeah, I remember CB, as I'm gonna call her, she used to just give me all this dumb shit to do, man. And then she would just down talk me, And I remember one of our fallouts was so remember I told y'all my manager told me to go around and to get the ball rolling and just talk to all the POCs and start to get this thing defined, right? To get all the input and outputs to our system defined. So one day CB wants to teach me and show me some shit, right? So she's like, okay, Andre, so today I'm going to take you around, and I want you just to be quiet. Don't say anything. Just watch what I do. Take notes. It's not going to be hard, okay? I said, okay, cool, right? So I'm walking around with her, and we're going to all the people I done already talked to, per my manager's instructions. So we get to like the third POC for the day, and she's asking about, hey, and she's like trying to like, she thinks she's in, she thinks she's the shit, she's like making little small talk jokes and small banter and cutting her eyes over at me like she's showing me something. And this POC is looking over at me at the same time. And then she goes through and she's asking all these questions about, hey, what inputs can you give us to our system and this, that, and the third. And this POC, like, point of contact, he just looks at her and says, hey, I think you two need to talk. She's like, why? What do you mean talk? He goes, he's been over here. He was already over here 2 weeks ago, and I gave him everything he needed. So you should probably just talk to him. Then her face just drops, and then she comes out the office. And I remember, man, we come out the office, man, she is fucking heated, man. She's like, oh my God, you made me look so fucking stupid. Like, like, how come, like, why did you just, like, go off on your own? Who told you to go off on your own and go and make a mess? Like, you're making a mess. Like, just fucking bitching, And I'm like, I said, my manager told me to go do this, and I been did this. Well, why didn't you tell me? And why didn't you do this? I said, because you told me to keep my mouth shut and to take your lead. Right. So yeah, that was our first like major like head bump, man. And then I remember our second head bump was this bitch tried to check me in a room. She tried to check the shit out of me, yo. And when she saw that I wasn't having it, that's where the shit kind of started falling apart, I remember we were in a meeting or something, or someone overheard us, or no, someone overheard her talking to me because I was real quiet. Like I didn't know anything, so I'm trying to just do my job to get my check so I can go home. So I remember I was working in my office or whatever, and then she was like, Andre, come with me, and then she walked me down the hallway and shit. And then we go into this back side office with no windows, and she just shuts the door, and she puts her hand on her desk, or she puts her hand on the desk, and she's like, do we have a problem? Like, people are noticing that we have an issue, and, we need to get our shit together, because if not, you're not going to be around here too much longer. Like, she was giving me that kind of talk, right? So I just kind of looked at her. I was like, man, look, I ain't got no problem with you. I'm just trying to do my job and go home, man. I don't want I don't want no smoke with you. You know what I'm saying? So, and then she tried to say something else. And I just walked around her and left. I was like, man, I ain't trying to hear this shit. So, so I leave out the room or whatever and shit. And then, after that, I started working on requirements, so when you're a systems engineer, our main output pretty much are requirements, and requirements are what basically define what the system is supposed to do, not how it's supposed to work, but what it's supposed to do. We define the what, and then we basically, divvy out the requirements to hardware engineers and software engineers, and then they come up with the how. And then while they're coming up with the how, we basically write test cases and procedures to test the system when everything comes together to make sure it's going to work per requirements. So I remember I was working on something. I forgot, it was a long time ago, but I'm working on some requirements or whatever, and everything I gave her, she just thought was trash and was bad, Like, she would always be like she wouldn't even read the shit. She would just be like, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't, this is bad. And she would kind of just like scribble on my shit. And then when I would ask her specific questions, I'm like, man, she don't know what the fuck she talking about. But anyways, like, she would start the whole comparison shit. How come you can't be like Dan? Like, Dan's work is just so good and your work it's just bad. Like, like, what are you doing? It was that kind of talk down condescension talk, and then before I would give my work to her, I would give my work to Dan and Lou, and it would be like, nah, this is solid. Like, this is like what I would do, So every time I would do like a little mini project or something small or like a small design, I would take the requirements to her, then go to the review, and she would always just, everything I did, like there was nothing I could do that was right. I was the black sheep in her group. I was her whipping boy, you know? So it just kept coming back. And then Dan and Lou would be like, yo, like, what's her problem? Like, why doesn't she like just go look at your work? Like what's wrong, you know? So I said I had a plan. I mean, cause I was, at this point, I was stressed out, man. I would come home from work just stressed out. Like I remember one time I was so stressed out, I called my mentor from my NASA summer research program I worked on. Cause I did like a small internship at NASA before I worked at this company, you know? So I called him up and I was telling him what was going on. And he was just like, oh man, I feel bad for you, man. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, you know, you got to stick it out because it's your first job and it's going to be hard for you to find another job and you don't even have a year under your belt. So I was like, yeah, I know. But anyways, I had a plan to catch this bitch, you know? Like, that's how I think, man. Like I be trying to, like when I'm doing my best and I'm trying to just do my job and I'm trying to get out of people's way and people fuck with me, like I got a plan for your ass. Right? I got something up my sleeve. So I had this plan, I had this grandiose plan. I was like, cause I got tired of her just talking down to me and looking at my work and just always saying it was bad. And I got tired of this bitch. So sorry, I don't like using the word bitch, but she was a bitch, you know? But anyways, me and Dan had a plan, right? So I had a plan. So like I basically came up with this plan. And my plan was, I was like, look, Dan, I want you to basically do what you do for your do what you do for your requirements for your subsystem, and I'm gonna do mine. And we're gonna we're gonna try to go through and break each other's design. But when we're done, I was like, put my name on your shit, and I'll put my name on your shit. And at first he was hesitant, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna catch this bitch red-handed, you know, because if your work is good and my work is bad and we swap names, like she should be able to determine what's bad and what's good. So it took some convincing, and I was like, you know, Dan was like, okay, I'm down, cool. Cause I had to basically make sure that I didn't like mess up things for him, you know? So we did that. And then, cause man, I was trying to catch this bitch, man. I was like, yo, if my shit is bad, I was gonna be like, yo, well, this is really Dan's work, and that's really my work over there. So, which is it? But it didn't come down to that, man. Like a miracle happened, you know. She somehow got another job somewhere else, you know. And then right before we were gonna have the review of our work, it was like, you know, she put out like an email saying that, hey, my last day is gonna be Friday, and we're going out for a happy hour, and all are welcome, right? So we went out, and I was like, oh wow, this is her last day. And then she was like hustling ass to get out of there. So anyways, there was no need for me and Dan to do our little switcheroo, if you want to call it that. So anyways, you know, and outside of work, she was cool. Like she was actually pretty cool outside of work, but just at work, she just wasn't. At that time, she was just in way over her head. She wasn't ready to be a lead, and she was incompetent, you know? So what were the lessons learned from that, right? The lessons learned or what I learned from all that is, you know, just being able to read body language and just first impressions, right? Like from day one, when I walked into my office and when I saw her for the first time, and when we locked eyes for a few seconds, I knew the shit was already over. Like my gut was like, yo, nigga, run. But I couldn't run, right? So what could I have done different? You know, I don't. Here's the thing, right? I could have called a meeting and tried to check her, but that would have probably went bad. I could have probably used some of the 48 laws of power. You know, I could have probably used law one, like, you know, never outshine the master. You know, so I could have basically hyped up her work and blew smoke up her ass to make her feel good about her work. So that way, in turn, if she wants to continue to feel good about her work, now she's gonna have to make me feel good about my work, you know? Um, yeah, I could have did that. Or if I suspected that she had a personal issue with me and I had none, I should have worked with Dan earlier to swap out work to see if it's me or if it's her, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm an engineer, right? Like I'm gonna figure some shit out, you know. So I had to figure out if it was me or if it was my work, you know. And if she had a problem with me, then I could have probably taken the shit to HR, or no, first take it to my manager and let him know. But then if I told him I did something that devious, now he's like, okay, now am I trustworthy, right? Am I gonna be trying to like trick motherfuckers on the team? You know, like I don't want to be a trickster on the team, but but I want to know like if it's a problem with me or my work, right? Plus I was in a state, or I was physically in a location of the country I didn't want to be in, so I could have probably really, what I could have done is I could have probably used that BS legal service that we get through our insurance or whatever at work. And I could have had a case and then went to HR and been like, yo, but once you make that move, you gotta like be like, yo, you gotta be ready to hit the streets if the shit don't work out. But I could have took that shit right to HR and got a lawyer, yo, and then got like a settlement for that joint because they got the money, you know. The company I work for had the money, right? I could have did that, but that's a bad way to get started in your first year of your profession, you know? So that probably wouldn't have been a good idea. I don't know. What are your thoughts based on everything I told you? You know what I'm saying? I know we all have had shitty workers or shitty people in the past that we had to work with, but what are your thoughts? Put them in the comments. Let me know. I want to hear what y'all thinking. But what else could I have done different? You know, in our company, we had these bullshit evaluations, but my manager took them serious. The evaluations were called PRDPs, you know, basically it was a peer review and development process, right? So basically it's the development of our professional careers. And I could have like written goals in there. Here's what I could have done. I could have really cornered her on expectations, right? Really just got down into, hey, not just what do you expect, but asked her, but basically came up with a whole list of questions as far as what she expects and kind of created a checklist from that. And once I got my work done and I checked off all those boxes, I could have been like, look, per our conversation, you said you expect X, Y, and Z. And I did X, I did Y, I did Z, and make sure they're all quantifiable things. And then if I didn't do that, or if I did do that, now I can go to my manager with like an actual data point and be like, hey, I don't know who this bitch is. I don't know how you hired her, but, well, I can't go to him. I can't go to him and say that, but, I could have went to him and just been like, look, here's my paper trail. Here's what we agreed on. And the goalpost keeps moving. Like, I'm not sure what it is she wants. So can you talk to her to let me know? And long story short, what ended up happening was my manager was actually a pretty dope manager. You know, he saw the bullshit I was dealing with on the team. And, he put me on like another project he was working on, or another project that he was supporting, where, and the way he phrased it was like, you know, hey, look, I have a better opportunity for you. This situation is kind of like weird. because my team got snatched. My original team, because his original team for that project got snatched up, and then he had to basically put together a makeshift team to basically work on this project. And then but he had another project that was already like well out the gate, and it was a way better experience for me. So he actually looked out for me. So shout out to my manager, first manager, John. John was dope. But lessons learned, man, is like, know how to like observe people when you first deal with them. Like when you first lay eyes on who you're working with, their initial reaction is going to tell you everything you need to know. So trust your gut. That's something I would say. That's one lesson I learned, is to trust your gut. And then the second thing is once you see somebody is not really trying to work with you, and you're the black sheep or you're the whipping boy, just try to get off that team. Like I should have probably fought and spent more energy. I should have probably spent more of my resources and energy trying to get off that team than to try to please her, because there was no universe. There was no multiverse, no universe where I was going to work under her and please her with my work. There was nothing I could have done. Anywho, that's all I got to say about that. Yeah, before I go any further, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, do all that fun internet stuff like the old people say. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you have a shitty supervisor or a shitty lead that you can't get beyond, or that you just can't work with? Put it in the comment section. Let me know. I want to know. Do you think I overreacted? Do you think my idea of trying to catch this bitch red-handed was a good idea or not? Let me know. I mean, I like to think it was a good idea because I was gonna have proof. I don't know why my voice got high right there. I think my voice is getting tired. But I said proof. But I had proof of the shit. Like I was gonna come with a data point, man. Like, man, that shit was, man, I was excited. I was like, yo, I want to know, is my work really that bad, or does she just not like me? I almost kind of wished that she stayed and, I got to see what the outcome was, because that would have been real interesting to see how that shit looked, Anywho, let me know what your comments are. Let me know what your thoughts are, man. AT is where it's at, on most forms of social media, as you guys can see below. Make sure you follow me. And I think I said all I needed to say about that. So without further ado, I'm out here, folks. Peace. Yep. Trippin with Theobold.
Let's go.
Caliente.
Trippin. Yep. Trippin. Trippin with Theobold.
Trippin with Theobold.